Gibson and Heather Nauer. Don't miss a moment.
At least for the time being, so you still could.
Yes, I still could, but I want to make it clear that's not on my agenda right now. I have CBS in my distant rearview mirror.
Well, distant no more, as Dan Rather dumps a $70 million lawsuit on CBS. My next guest says that the network should have dumped Dan with a big pay package akin to what a CEO gets on the way out. Why? Let's ask him. Jackson Bain, a very smart guy, corporate communications expert. Jackson, it's an interesting idea. Look, we give CEOs big pay packages and parachutes on their way out so they don't cause any problems. You're saying apply it to anchors.
Well, I think that should have been from a long time ago. You know, they call it a separation agreement, and essentially it's a bribe. The bribe is you get this pack of money no matter how you were separated from our company, whether it's for cause or whether you just get tired and go home. But in this separation agreement, we're going to give you some money, and you will never talk about us again. Now, the separation agreement can handle all kind of clauses, some of them including, besides not speaking about it, never sue us again. So I mean, there are all kinds of things that could have happened and should happen, I think, because, frankly, an anchor is just as visible a figurehead as a CEO of a corporation.
So I'm just as important as a CEO.
Well, and I was going to ask you about that separation agreement that you have with Fox. But
there you go. There you go.
But seriously,
they're in big trouble if that happens. But Jackson, it's an interesting concept because it would imply then that Dan Rather A would have accepted one, and B would have just gone out quietly with a big payment. I'm not so sure he would have.
No, I'm not sure either. Dan Rather is not what you call a non-outspoken person, and you had him on your show, and he was somewhat reticent about his dealings with CBS then, as the videotape just showed. But you know, Dan Rather looks at life in a somewhat different way. He feels that his reputation is more important than anything. He feels that it's not the money, but it's his reputation that he's trying to protect. I got to tell you, I don't think this suit is going to help his reputation. I mean,
yeah,
but you know,
I'll tell you, when there were controversies with companies, Jackson, they're very careful. Even when the CEO's been kicked out, they're very careful to come back and say, well, it's the CEO's fault. We think he's a fool. They sometimes bump him or her upstairs to some sort of a stupid title, but they're not doing anything. But in Dan's case, it would have been a little different. The clear inference would have been, it was your fault, Dan, and we kicked your butt out of here. So it's murky.
And remember, 6 people, in addition to Dan Rather, 6 people got fired directly because of the incident that we're talking about.
Very good point.
And those people, and Dan hung on there for weeks after those 6 people had been shown the door. So they sort of did that at first, and then they realized that it probably wasn't going to work. But CBS is not known for making good decisions in the first place.
No, not very good decisions. Jackson, thank you very much.
Welcome.
Jackson Bain. And it looks like, fingers crossed, we'll have Dan Rather to talk about this mañana. We shall see. Meanwhile, the industrials off today, but doing great recently. Are we still in the middle of a sugar high after this?
Fox Hurricane Center. We've got it covered. Taking Stock is brought to you by Korean Air. Excellence in flight.